Welcome to the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. I'm a shamanic Reiki master teacher. And today's guest is Melinda Schmitt, and out of Atlanta. She's a healing touch practitioner for animals, and she's going to share with us her journey of healing MS through dietary changes. So welcome to the show, Melinda.
Thank you so much, Tina. It's great to be here.
So tell us more about yourself and what you do. I know you're certified in other things. So tell us more about yourself.
I am what I like to call a perpetual work in progress. So right now I'm kind of in one of those transitory phases, but I'm doing some healing work for animals. I do coaching for specifically women. I'm working on a second book right now. And I also work at a beautiful Unitarian Universalist church, and I am helping to expand the vibes of the space, and I'm super excited about that right now.
Yeah, so how long have you been doing healing touch, which is energy healing modality, and how long have you been a coach?
It's been about 8 years for both. I went into both kind of concurrently, and it really came from my chihuahua, because when I was just going through just a really hard time is when I adopted my chihuahua, and he was about a year old, and he was a mess. I mean, when you think of chihuahuas, you think of high anxiety anyway, but he was like beyond, and was super aggressive. Nobody could come to the house. It was just a lot. And for a year, I tried everything. I tried massage therapy for him. I tried personal training. I tried group training. I tried even animal communicators, and nothing seemed to help. And that's when I found myself in the world of healing touch for animals, because it was a last resort, because I was like, if this doesn't work, I may not be able to keep my dog. And it was transformative for him. And I saw a completely different dog the weekend that he had that work done on him. And over the next year, I started to watch the fact that he was really mirroring me in my life and my own anxieties. And so the thought of the healing touch partnering with this coaching piece, I did that work on myself first. And that's kind of why they started following this path together in my life.
So did you notice when you started working on yourself, he started to change?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, he didn't maintain his changes until I started to do the work on myself.
Mm. Which is, I mean, it's incredible how animals can be a mirror for what we need to work on ourselves. So if your animals are a mess, you need to examine everything,
Yeah, for sure.
So I assume you got diagnosed with MS at one point, and did you want to share about your healing journey with that?
Yeah, I would love to. I was diagnosed with MS when I was 24. It was the year 2000. And when I was diagnosed, and even still to this day, I don't think that there's a whole lot that's really known about MS. There's just a lot of unknowns. And it was really aggressive, the version that I had. So I was having what's called exacerbations or attacks every other month that first year that I was diagnosed. And the doctor that I had just basically threw all medications at me. Like, you need to be on steroids, and you also need to be on this daily injection. And it was just a lot of medicine being thrown at me. And I was so grateful, because I was like, well, I'm 24, like whatever I can do to combat this, right? Because the prognosis, although it wasn't imminent, was bleak. So it was basically like my my doctor was basically like, well, it's not like you're going to die from this tomorrow, but your life is going to be shortened. So let's see what we can do to lengthen that. And that's knowing what I know now. That really isn't a way that I want to plan out my future. Like, I don't want to just lengthen my life. I want to live out my life, right? But I thought that Western medicine knew best, and I thought that the doctor knew best. And so I just followed what he was saying because I didn't know any better. And the medications, the steroids in particular, they were intravenous steroids. So I would go into the hospital and I would get steroids intravenously injected into my body for 4 or 5 days straight. I would be in the hospital for about 3 to 5 hours, depending on the day and how my veins were. And when I would come off the steroids, I would crash so hard. I would get so sick. And this was, I was on the steroids every time I had an attack. So for that first year, I was on them 6 times, and my body was deteriorating. I could feel it deteriorating every time I was on these steroids. And so the next year it got better. And so the doctor was like, oh, great, the medicine's working because you've only had 4 attacks this year as opposed to 6. But for me, I'm like, this is still not a way to live my life. I was so tired all the time. All of my friends are going out partying. I can't join them. I'm like, at this point, believing that maybe my life will be extended, but I could see myself in a care facility by the time I was like 30 years old. That's just the way the trajectory of what it felt like. And so I was on during one of my steroid treatments going into the 3rd year. I was sitting next to this woman who overheard a conversation that I was having with my mom. And I was talking about the MS, and I was upset because this nurse that I loved, that always was this like comforting present in the hospital, she had left her position and she was no longer there. And this woman sitting next to me was getting her own dose of steroids. And she looked at me and she was like, you have MS. And I was like, yeah. And I don't know if I've said this already, but MS is multiple sclerosis for those of you that are curious out there. And I said yes. And she said, well, I don't know if you would be open or interested, but I have the name of a nutritionist that helped me. And I was feeling the best that I felt when I was following what she told me to do. She's like, and I'm really upset at myself that I stopped following it, because that's why I'm here back in the hospital again. And so I was like, okay, I'll take the card. I'm open. I, of course, want to feel better. And I called the number that next week, and the nutritionist was like, she was so blunt. She was so curt. She was like, have you read the MS diet book by Dr. Roy Swank? And I was like, no. She goes, do that, then call me. And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm getting into. Like, can you tell me anything? And she was like, like kind of exasperated. And she was like, okay, well, here's the thing. You're going to have to give up all of your favorite foods. You're going to have to give up dairy. You're going to have to give up fast food. You're going to have to stop going out to eat. You're going to have to give up cheeses. And she's listing all of these things I'm going to have to give up. She's like, you're going to have to give up red meat for the first year. And I was like, oh, okay, I think that's not for me. No, thank you. And I ended up hanging up on her because I couldn't imagine like giving up all of these things. And it was shortly after that I was in another round of steroids, and I just hit this point that was so low. I just started like screaming in my room, like, this can't be my life. I'm 27 at this point, 26, 27 years old. I was like, this cannot be my life. I am not living. I am simply existing. And I couldn't do it anymore. I was at that point willing to try anything. So I ordered the book, and as soon as I read it, I felt like these full body, like knowing, like this is something that I have to do. And I started that month. That was in June. And I started at the beginning of June and started following the protocol that Dr. Swank offered in the book. And by the end of June, I was feeling better than I had in 10 years. So in just that short month, I had already could feel a drastic difference. And so from that point forward, I just kept following the diet until I recognized that it was really my own inner knowing that was showing me what my best paths to healing were. But for those first couple of years, that diet was it. And I was able to come off of medication, and it's been 25 years now, and I've been off of medication the whole time.
So why is diet a cause or connected to MS? What's going on there?
So the theory that Dr. Swank had and what he discovered was that the lesions that were happening in the brain and spine for MS mimicked or looked so similar to the lesions that saturated fats were causing. And so his theory was, if we remove these saturated fats and put people with MS on these really low fat diets, then we should be able to reduce the number of lesions and then find some success. And he did find that success, and I found that success. What I also found, though, was beyond what Dr. Swank was saying, and my lesions were actually healing. And that was something at the time, 20 some odd years ago, was unheard of because that's the one thing my doctor said, like, your lesions won't ever heal. You can't ever heal from this. I'm sitting here today talking to you as living proof that you can heal from this.
Mm-hmm. You can heal from a lot of things.
Yeah.
And hopefully the listeners already realize this. There's all sorts of ways to heal.
Yes.
Many
absolutely.
different paths to healing. And every path is a little unique and different for each person.
Yes.
And that's why you have to explore things and try things, and what may have worked for someone else may not work for you, or it may work for you.
And it may work for you for a certain period of time, and then it needs to change again. So I have changed my healing path numerous times throughout my life, and each one brings me to a greater and deeper healing on so many levels.
Yeah, so you mentioned the fact that you had an inner knowing.
Yes.
Explain what that was.
So I call it the nudge, and it's this sensation deep in my body that feels grounded, gentle, compassionate, and I'm going to say slow because that's the best way to describe it. It's not an urgency. There is no urgency to this nudge, to this voice that's inside. And when I feel that sense of like relief or groundedness, I know I've hit on another something that is for me. So a lot of times it can be another healing path. I went on a healing path that was the complete opposite of this Swank diet, that was full fat, full high meats, like full everything. because this nudge, this inner knowing inside of me said, this is the next one. It defied logic when you look at it from a human, like, let me logically think about it. It defied that because it was the complete opposite of what had already been working for me. But during those couple of years that I was on, it wasn't quite keto, but it was a form of the paleo diet. When I was on this high fat diet, I healed in a different way. And I healed emotions, and I healed belief systems, and I healed my gut in a way that the first diet couldn't do for me. And that was a very short, temporary thing, but the nudge led me there. So it could defies sometimes what logic tells us. But when I can feel that sensation of non-urgency, groundedness, I know, okay, let me explore this for myself.
Yeah, and it sounds like your nudge is intuition, and you need to quiet your mind in order to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, because your intuition is very quiet and like a whisper.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking, and fearing, and worrying, you're not going to get the message.
Yep. Yeah. And I think one of the things that's really helped me in that, and because I'm such an overthinker, like it's such an overthinker. And so what helps me there is when I find myself in these thoughts of urgent thoughts, or, oh my gosh, we have to go do this now. We have to go do this right now. We have to get this. I know that it's not my intuition, because my intuition would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in those moments that I just take a deep breath and I'm like, I'm not going to do what that urgent thing is saying, because that is not my intuition. Maybe my intuition will agree with it, but let me just check in first with what that small, still voice is saying.
So are you still on the low-fat diet, according to Dr. Swank's book?
I am not.
Okay.
I follow my food habits, my exercise habits, my living habits. I follow it all with my intuition now, with the nudge. Because it's not just there for like the big moments and the big experiences. With practice, we can find it and discover it with all of the small decisions we need to make. And what I have discovered for myself is that maybe having gluten once or twice a week is necessary for me, but more than that, and I start to not feel good. Vegetables, my entire diet needs to be so full of fruits and vegetables. So I would say 80 to 90% of my diet needs to be fruits and vegetables for me to be the most healthy. That other like 10 to 20% is meats and enjoyment foods, the desserts and the things that like might be high fat or completely processed, or something that might feel like it shouldn't be good for my body. I give myself permission for that, because eating mostly fruits and vegetables and limited amount of gluten for me is what keeps my body healthy, so it can process all of these other things and they just kind of move through my body without affecting me.
Yeah, so you're really paying attention to how you feel
Yes.
when you're eating certain foods. Or maybe you can only eat them a little bit and
Yep.
not a whole lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
I do that a lot too, because I like eggs, for example, but sometimes my body doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
some days I eat eggs, I'm fine. Other days, not so much.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So you do have a book called Rebel Hugger. Tell us about the book.
I do. So the nudge was probably the loudest it's ever been when I was working on trying to discover what I wanted to do with my life after having given birth to a couple of boys. And I was feeling kind of lost. I loved being a mom, but I wanted something a little bit more than that. And I was just kind of floundering. And I felt this like download come in that was basically like, when I had asked, what am I good at? This download came in and was basically like, love. You're good at love. And I was like, great, but what am I supposed to do with that? Like, that is so generic. That doesn't give me anything, thanks. So when I asked for clarification, I felt, instead of hearing, I felt a sensation emanating from my heart that just kind of like went down my arms. And I was like, oh, hugs. I'm really good at hugs. I love to hug people. At that time, I had moved to a new state and none of my family was around me. None of my friends that I had known my whole life were there. And so I was really missing hugs. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm missing hugs, then maybe other people are too. And maybe what I could do for this next year is just hug everybody that I encounter and spread this love and gratitude to all of the people that are around me. And my year of hugs was born, and that was in 2011 to 2012. And the reason I only recently wrote Rebel Hugger is because at the end of that year of hugging thousands of people, which was amazing and incredible, I was more depressed and lonely than ever before. And so the book is actually the story of my journey of unpacking why I ended up more lonely after hugging thousands of people and what I needed to learn through that whole process.
Wow, you would think it would be the opposite.
I definitely thought it would be the opposite, which brought on even more shame, which led me even deeper into the depression.
Yeah. I mean, hugging is good, but sometimes there's a energy, exchange that happens. And so if you're sensitive, you might absorb that or take that on. Is that what happened?
It's not what happened. I became aware of energy because of the hugs. I became way more aware of boundaries and all of that. But really what had happened was I had been looking externally for all of the love that I was giving everybody else, whereas I hadn't ever given it to myself. And so it took me a lot of years to unpack just how much I disliked myself and to discover what it would mean to love myself so that I could go back out and hug people again from the place of already loving myself, so that I could have really good boundaries, so that when I am hugging, that energy exchange, they can keep theirs and I can keep mine.
Mm-hmm. So was the nudge saying you're good at loving others, but not yourself?
I think what the nudge was saying was, here's this beautiful gift that you can give to others. And also, there's going to be lessons for you along the way. So this is a win-win all around.
Yeah, I think hugging thousands of people is quite a feat. I mean, I remember during COVID, people were not hugging, but I kept hugging people, and I usually hug my clients because you talk about a lot of real deep things, and it's just nice to hug at the end and say, hang on to your zen and do all those things, and when you need more help or assistance, come back.
Yeah. I say, one of the things that I've learned through hugging so many people and through discovering like the lack of self-love that I had for myself is that hugs have the power to transform people. And to me, in this day and age of even post-COVID, but also in our very, very divisive society, hugs have the power to be revolutionary. Because we live in a world where we're being told to be fearful of others. And how revolutionary is it to look at a stranger and to see only their humanity and nothing else about them, and to choose, instead of fearing them, to embrace them and say, I see you because you are me. We are the same. We are so connected because we are humans, and there is nothing else like a human here on earth. And so why wouldn't we love each other?
Yeah. I feel like the fear that's promoted is a tactic that has worked for a long time, and we need to stop. We need
Yeah.
to stop falling for it.
Yes,
Yeah, and
because
every
it's not true.
emotional thing that happens, and us versus them, they're the
Yeah,
wrong party, they're the wrong religion. That's all a trap.
it
And
is.
it's a trap that we fell for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and stop falling for the trap.
Yeah. And how revolutionary is that? I mean, when I am in the face of somebody and asking them for a hug, because I always ask for hugs, even way back then. I'm not just going to hug random strangers without telling them first. There has to be a trust that's built, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that ask builds the trust because I'm giving them the choice of whether they want to hug me or not. And you can see the fear in a lot of people when you do that. And when you ask a stranger for a hug, I could see the fear in a lot of people because there's like the mistrust. And I got a lot of the side eye of like, what's in it for you? Or why are you doing this? And I would not share what I was doing. I would simply keep it that pure hug exchange. And very few people said no to me. Most people, even the ones that had that fear and you could see like the skeptical look in their eye, I would hug them and I would try to always meet them where they were, but also lean into the hug a little bit more, lean into my own vulnerability a little bit more. And then I could feel like you could feel their energy, like you could feel the fear just kind of melt off their body. And it is one of the most beautiful experiences. And it always made it worth it.
It reminds me of back in high school. I went to boarding school, I had a roommate, but we were huggers, and we had this friend that didn't like to be hugged.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she was not hugged growing up. I assumed she wasn't used to like physical affection, but we would literally she'd come around and we just both hug her at the same, like attack hug kind of thing. And she would shrink up and she'd be like, ah. But guess who was giving us hugs after a while?
Yeah.
Because she got used to it and she, I guess, realized it felt good. But I was always a little proud about that I got her to
Yeah.
start giving hugs because she was so uncomfortable with it at first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this is basic things, and I feel like the technology has really got in the way of face-to-face and personal interactions and social interactions. And gosh, sometimes I just want to throw away my phone and never have it again. You know what I mean?
I do.
But then this technology is allowing you and me to
Yep.
talk, and there is an energy connection over the internet. It can happen. So that's a good thing.
It is a great thing.
Yeah.
I find that for some people, not wanting to be touched does have to do with some traumas, and that for some people, they need time to work through that without actually being touched, right? So I feel like the electronics give that opportunity. It can definitely be a distraction. It can go both ways, but it can also be the thing that allows them to find trust in humanity again, so that maybe they might be open to the possibility of a hug with somebody that they love and trust. And I think that can be a really beautiful thing if we can start talking about these possibilities rather than simply using. I have gotten rid of all of my social media. I'm too sensitive of a person to be on social media. That is a very personal thing to me that I have recognized for myself. So for other people, social media is that thing that keeps them connected, and they can use it in very healthy ways. And I think that that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So it really just comes down to each individual person again, and kind of listening into that intuition and seeing what the intuition is telling you, and how electronics might best serve you, or how they're maybe not serving you, and how can you find that path to human connection in the easiest, most accessible way.
Yeah.
And it's scary because doing it means being vulnerable, and being vulnerable is really scary.
I think people crave it though,
Yes.
especially, and you have to determine whether this is authentic or not.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff you have to sift through. But I've wanted to quit social media, but I feel like I reach people that I otherwise wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I hang on to it. Otherwise, like if I didn't have my own business, or I probably wouldn't. But now I have the podcast, so I'm posting about the podcast, and it's on YouTube and Spotify and all those things. So, and I'm trying to get this information out.
And I
So,
think that I love that you bring that up, because I think that that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Because for you, you're like, but I am reaching people. And when I did an assessment of my social media, the people that I was reaching were the people that I was in person with. I had the illusion that I was reaching people through the social media, but when I did the assessment of everything, I wasn't. It like everybody that I was reaching either lived in my area, or I had seen them and come across them and met them in person somehow in some way. So like, this is a perfect example of where it works for you in those ways, and you are reaching those people. And that, I wish I could do that. I wish that that was the path for me, because I think that there is so much great potential there. But that particular potential is meant for someone like you, whereas my greatest potential is in the in-person and being out and about in my communities.
well, I always ask people, how did they find me?
Uh-huh.
So I always ask that. And over the years, I've had people say, saw you on Facebook somehow.
Yes. Yeah.
Or even if there's someone I knew that I'm like a childhood friend with, and then they send me a message and they would say, oh, I've been following your posts and I find them really inspiring. And I didn't know that.
Yep.
So people don't always like or comment, but they still read. They're still noticing.
I completely agree with you. And, the fact that you are getting these messages from people, that is your proof that that's your path. Like, you can listen to your intuition, but you can also get the validation from having those messages. And I just wasn't getting those.
What always tickles me too is like I've been recommended by people who don't know me.
Yeah.
And this is locally, but they'll like recommend go to her, but I don't know this person. I'm like, wow, you would think you would need to try my services or meet me first. And they're saying go to this lady. So maybe I have a rep in Charleston now. I don't know.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, so occasionally that happens, but it used to be a lot of word of mouth in the beginning, and now people find my website, which I'm very happy they do, because I've invested so much money in my website so that people could find me.
Right.
So it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I love that. And I think that that's so important. And this is for anybody that's out there that is afraid of putting yourself out there. How are people supposed to know who you are and what you have unless you're being very vulnerable and authentically putting yourself out there? And I love that you used all of those words, because those are all really important, because I think people are looking for leaders who are specifically being authentic and vulnerable and showing what's possible in
Yeah.
this life.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of fakeness out there on social media. So it can be disappointing too.
Yeah.
So this is why the nudge is so important, to be connected to the nudge,
Yeah.
which I've been practicing that a long time. And people will be like, well, how did you find this practitioner? How do you know she was for real? And I was like, well, I went to her website, I looked at it, and I talked to her, and I liked her. And I thought she would be good. And I was right. So,
Right. Yeah.
so that's just how I did it, with your own discernment. And the more you practice that, the better you get at it. I'm a thinker too. So I always tell people, they're like, oh, how can I stop the monkey mind and the stinking thinking? And I still thinking too.
Uh-huh.
Once in a
Yeah.
while, then I have to stop myself. And I don't know, we just went through an eclipse, and that was
Oh,
rough. I was like,
so rough.
one morning I woke up and I'm thinking. I'm like, what is wrong? What am I doing? And my saving grace was Reiki, because I had a client coming in for Reiki.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really need this for myself, because you receive Reiki as well. And I was like, this is going to change how I feel. And it did. It like completely shifted me out of the stinking thinking.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is finding the practices that work for us, because we're not ever going to get rid of the monkey mind. Even like the best meditation practitioners will teach you, you don't get rid of the monkey mind. You learn how to observe it and just let it be, let it do its thing, love it anyway, and then go, but this is what I'm going to choose instead.
right.
And that's such a practice.
Ultimately, you're in control, really.
Yeah.
It's just, are you going to get entangled in the thoughts, or are you going to observe the thoughts and let it go, and not let it bully you or bother you, or whatever the thoughts are doing?
Yep. Yep.
So Melinda, can you share your website? And if you'll offer any classes or sessions online, or maybe in person, because you checked out of social media, but
I did. I mean, I'm still posting some stuff on there every once in a while, just so people know what I'm doing, locally here in Atlanta. But really, my website is melindaleeschmitt.com. It's SCHMITT. And that is being updated. So my coaching information is still on there. That will be updated shortly. So if you're listening to this after and you're like, wait, but it doesn't look like that, that could be why. The greatest thing that I'm offering right now is my book, Rebel Hugger. My name on Rebel Hugger is just Melinda Lee. So you are finding the right book if you don't see the Schmitt on there. And that can be found on Amazon and anywhere that you purchase books online. I am in a pause on in-person things at the moment. So feel free to go to my social media on Facebook and Instagram. It's at This Is Me, Melinda Lee, Lee. And when I am hosting some local events, they will be posted there. But right now, it's just a whole bunch of podcasts, which I'm loving.
Fun.
Yes, it is very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going to ask you a question? I can't think of it right now. But I want to thank you, Melinda, Lee Schmitt for being on the show. And if you're listening out there and struggling with MS, or reach out to her because
Please do.
she has a lot of experience and she's found a way out of it. So, which is
And
always wonderful to hear.
And not just MS. If you're struggling with any sort of physical ailment, I will not ever be somebody who will tell you to get off medication immediately. I am not that person. I do believe in the value of medications, but if you are struggling with navigating how to find different paths, I would be more than happy to help you.
Great. So all that information will be in the show notes. So reach out to Melinda if you need to.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tina. This was great.
Okay, thank you.